I'd like to call this meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council to order, and I will do the invocation and the pledge. Please rise. Heavenly Father, we ask that you grant us your preserve and grace in the deliberations that will take place this evening. For this and other blessings, we give thanks and praise. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Darren Guidry, Mr. Babin, Mr. Dirk Guidry, Mr. Trusclair, Mr. Pleasure, Mr. Hardy, Mr. Michelle, Mr. Amity, and Ms. Domain.
Here.
Madam Chairwoman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Approved minutes of the regular council session held on July 12, 2023. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Approved minutes of the special session condemnation held on July 25th, 2023. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry and second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, motion passes. Distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on July 26, 2023. Approve accounts payable list for 7/31/2023 and 8/7/2023. Moved by Mr. Steve Trosclair, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item 1, general business. A presentation by Mr. Frank Kidd and Dr. Raymond Delaney with Louisiana Council of Resources regarding the M.J. Foster Promise Program. Mr. Kidd and Mr. Delaney, can you please come up to the mic?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raymond Delaney. I'm located at 824 Elmwood Park Boulevard in New Orleans, Louisiana, but we also have on West Tunnel, our office on West Tunnel. And today I have Mr. Newell with me. Mr. Kidd has not arrived yet. He'll be here in about 5 minutes, but I'll try to wrap it up before that. All right. If you look before you on the screen, these are what we call facts about our organization, Louisiana Council of Resources. Initially, we started out as an organization that was focused on working with justice-involved persons with special needs who are impacted by the criminal justice system. And because of COVID, it helped advance and change our lives forevermore. And we expanded services to address the needs of people who are low to moderate income and that were impacted by COVID-19. And when I was talking to different community members, we had people that came from the Houma area, Lafourche and Terrebonne, and they were looking for services because of the I call it the catastrophic events of COVID-19. And I went to our partners at Capital One and Greater New Orleans Foundation and told them what was happening in the city of Houma and the people that we were working with. And as a result, we expanded our services from New Orleans, Louisiana to Houma, as we was already in this area as well. And if you look at the Fact A, over the course of several years, LaCour has participated in federal, local, and state government initiatives servicing the metropolitan area and the 12 statewide parishes. And I'm not going to read everything, but I'm just going to kind of like give a high-level introduction of the tenant-based rental assistance we provided. East Baton Rouge, we did a housing expansion program. As I stated with Ganolfa and Capital One, we did the disaster relief assistance program, which we still have currently, and we're working with. Our waiting list is about 80 people left. So we are still working that list as we can. We did the Justice Reinvestment Initiative with the Department of Corrections and a few other types of programs that are similar. We are fluent in different grant applications and processes, both pre and post. We understand the importance of being a good steward of the government's funding and money and donors, private, and just everyday persons. If you can scroll up a little bit more to Fact B. We have been sub-recipients of different types of programs that required us to be goal-oriented. create objectives and try to meet certain measurements and outcomes. And we also were able to focus kind of on collecting data so that data can be used to make sound decisions, so that when we're working with community stakeholders as you all can see the significance of what we're trying to do and what that outcome looked like together. If you can scroll up. So in this fact, we were able to do call centers. We were able to do non-traditional hours, because what we found is that everybody have different schedules. We have people who are working, some that are not working, working with families, whether it's single family or traditional families. They have needs. They have certain criteria that they're focused with. And so we try to apply our program to fit the needs of the community. The successes that we have on the fact, see if you can scroll up a little bit more. We are proud to say that the people that we're working with, where we have worked with, especially in the justice area, our recidivism rate was pretty well good. We had nobody to go back to jail under our program. And the reason that is because we took an approach where we had the community involved and the hard to reach people. For example, I know I'm a professor, I'm a criminologist. Sometimes I can't reach certain people. So people on our staff who may have been involved or had that type of issues, what are you talking about? Well, as you know, 32,000 people in Louisiana are suffering with different types of drugs and alcoholism, etc. So what best to suit or help somebody who's dealing with that if you experienced it yourself? Did people, go back to jail after the program? Yes, but not under our watch, not under the 3 years that we captured them in our organization. And so with that being said, as we continue to work in this great city and making sure that our organization is suited so that we can address the needs of the community, we would like to work in collaboration, in concert with this great council, and to fit the needs or the concerns that you all may have, so that we can be successful together. Because what we find in working with East Baton Rouge Parish, City of Kenner, New Orleans, Louisiana, Jefferson Parish, St. Tammany, Plaquemines Parish, is the closer you work with key stakeholders, the better the outcomes, and especially the citizens that we're trying to serve. So one of the areas that we would like to expand is on the Mike Foster Promising Program. And in that program, as you all may know, it focuses on 5 key areas. And those 5 key areas is supported financially, which is a good thing. And unfortunately, I think it was about 10 million allocated, and I don't even think barely half was given out. And under that program, participants can earn up to 3,200, I think, a year, and then it's broken by semester, and up to 6,000 plus within 3 years. And so I think that will be something that is promising to this the citizenry of Houma, Terrebonne, Lafourche, and we can provide the technological assistance. Sometimes it's hard to navigate the systems on a computer, or especially with the phones. I don't know how they're doing it, but my students, y'all, they are doing papers on Microsoft Word on the phone. So I don't know how they do it, because I go into anxiety, but this is what we're dealing with. And so our agency is equipped to go to the community. Traditionally, you wait for people to come to the office, which we will have a space as well, but you get better results going to the community. And that's what we would like to do. And I would like to turn it over to Mr. Newell so he can give us some expertise as well, because he's a public servant and he also has an extensive amount of experience working in the private sector as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Noel George, resident of Houma, Louisiana. I just wanted to say, as for myself, I had 42 years in the oil and gas industry. I did 37 years with a major company, Chevron. In that part, I was the first safety specialist in the Gulf of Mexico. Then from there, I worked 6 years in the office, 4 years overseas, then auditor for them before I retired. When I retired, Fletcher decided they wanted to pick me up. I became their department head for their integrated production technology. In other words, an extra 5 years in oil and gas, teaching students everything they need to know, whether it's on land or whether it's offshore. I have that knowledge because I've been there, done that. And the reason why they asked me to be there, not just because of my expertise, like he said, I'm a public servant. In my 7 years of retirement, my wife and I have been doing community service, whatever we can, reaching out to any individual as for needs. As for the educational part, I've always pushed education because I can see the benefit. I call it generational wealth. When an individual can get a job coming into the oil and gas industry, they're starting off leaving Fletcher at the IPT anywhere from 60 to 80 grand a year. And it's not a job, it's a career. So I'm just pushing this and also working with them. I work with the Louisiana Workforce because they're offering students anywhere from $17,000 of free money as for going to school. So I am just here to help out however I can, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. Any way we can help as for working together, that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions, comments, or concerns by the panel?
Yes, give me 1 minute. I do have a question. Mr. Gerald Michel.
Dr. Delaney, thank you. Thank y'all both for being here. But you made a comment about 0% recidivism. You didn't use that term, 0% recidivism.
In our organization.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, how many clients did that serve?
On average, 60 a quarter. On average,
And
60.
so y'all need to find some way to expand that because that's unheard of. That's incredible.
Right.
And you know, yeah, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And you know.
And let me add this. I appreciate it. We work hard to work with populations with special needs, people who have current disorders and things like that. They are violent offenders, and the success comes because we find people who are able to reach them. We work with the community, so we go to the community as opposed to waiting for people to come. And they might want to come. They're kind of leery as to if they should come. And so it wasn't just us, it was the community that supported the initiative to make that a success.
Yeah, but y'all initiated that process, and
Yes.
that is just incredible. Thank y'all so much, and I hope you can make that grow into hundreds of thousands, as many as we need to, because that's unheard of.
Yes, sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Mr. Mike Toops.
Yes, sir. In your presentation, I saw you reference grants numerous times. We have a grant writer, and as you know, grant applications are very difficult to fill out and fill out right. If we have our grant writer working on a grant and she has a question, is that the type of assistance you provide, help with actually writing of the grant applications?
I have a certificate from the American Grant Writers Association, so that's how I learned the skill. And I worked once for Volunteers of America, which is a great organization. We don't provide technical services, but if you have a question or if you wanted to work with us and develop a project or a program, I think that is the right thing to do together.
Okay.
Yeah, but to just technical assistance, maybe we could talk about that,
Okay.
but absolutely willing to work with you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. Mr. Pledger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to applaud you guys for all that you've done. The statistics that you've shared with us, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, to echo what Mr. Michel mentioned. But Mr. George, I got a question for you. Are you Miss Sadie George's son?
Most definitely. Both my parents were educated in Terrebonne Parish.
Wow. And you're the guy I've been talking to and didn't even know who you were.
That's me.
Thank you. I appreciate what you've done. You'll be hearing from me real soon.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Pledger. Mr. Harding.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. I know Frank, he's coming from Gonzales, and he teaches cybersecurity at Woodlawn. And in the approach here, and the idea here is really making a presentation, and in the other way I can put it, for Terrebonne Parish and this council, and perhaps not now, as we look forward into the future. We're coming to the end of our year. I think some circumstances, when I spoke with Mr. George and Mr. Delaney, also Mr. Kidd, we were trying to get a combination of these fellows right here. And oftentimes we take the wrong approach, or we don't make any adjustments on the fly. And these guys right here, they are making the adjustments on the fly that some other agencies have not been able to be coherent enough to actually look, listen, and learn where the problems are. And sometimes government gets that way. But I appreciate it's more than just efforts that you actually, Mr. Delaney and Mr. George, who fourth grade teacher was his mother. My mother, his mother was my fourth grade teacher, and so I have faith in you guys. And unfortunately, some of the numbers that can be represented by Mr. Kidd, he's not here now, and we got to be moving on. But in reference to when I spoke with Mr. Kidd, the Mike Foster program issued out $10.5 million. Everyone out there to understand that, to go along with Mr. Toop's question that he asked. And out of that $10.5 million, $5 million, 5.5, I think it was $5.5 million that was spent. So the money that was sent back, it's going to be allocated again this year. And same amount of money. And one of the problems when I spoke with Mr. Kidd is the fact that there is a problem. Not so much as actually getting the $3,200, which it costs $3,200 to actually within a year at Fletcher, but it costs $25,000 to incarcerate someone. So there has to be a better way, and the success these guys are actually having with their system, we want to adopt that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you may look at the messenger and don't really listen to the message. This is the message that's coming out not just to this council, but then to other members of Terrebonne Parish and their association with Fletcher, Dr. Delaney and Mr. Kidd. Both of his parents were educators. So hopefully, as we go into the future and more conversation that we may have with these gentlemen going into the future, that is a possibility. I'm pretty sure that actually they can do a few things with Mr. Guidry over there. And there's some other people that they were actually talking to in our community. So we're going to come up with a pretty good program. And I thank you very much.
Yeah, 1 second. Mr. Kidd, in his defense, he has worked at the Department of Labor, so that expertise comes. He worked in D.C. for quite some time. And also his parents were educators. So we got a lot of education going on.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Mr. Trosclair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to echo my colleagues, kudos on the job you guys are doing, the organization. And maybe I missed it yet, a really good presentation, but maybe I missed it. What is exactly that we can do as a parent? I want to support you guys in whatever we can do. What are you asking from us? You know, I didn't, if I missed it, I didn't catch it, but what can we do to help you?
Sure. So what we've done in the past with other city councils, we've worked with their program coordinator, the community developer, because y'all can't do everything now. So you connect us with that person, and we sit down together and we come up with a budget, because you will need financial resources, honestly, and we can share that at a later time. But beyond that, it is our responsibility to sustain that program. And so while you all may do a small part of it with helping financially, we're going to take that and leverage those dollars and find other key stakeholders or partners and donors so that we can continue this process. And then some of our programs are self-sustainable within itself. It teaches entrepreneurship and giving back. So we have a process that not only needs help in the front, but also meets that front help and kind of sustain it and then keep it moving forward so we don't have to keep begging you all. I think that's a modest approach.
Okay, so basically you're looking for some sponsorship from the parish monetarily,
Yes,
along
basically.
with maybe some, help from our administration.
Yes, sir. That would be helpful.
So, and that, I'm okay with that. We just need to get some numbers and see if we can make it work. That's the thing,
Okay.
Everything works off our budget, and we actually fix to get to our budget season coming up. So now it's probably a pretty good time to start putting some numbers together, see if we can make it happen.
Okay, we'll submit a very conservative budget, and I think that's reasonable.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Trosclair. Mr. Babin.
Yeah, I I'm in full agreement with what you guys are talking about. I think it's fabulous that you can have that kind of 100% on anything is unbelievable. But what I really want to say is Mr. Kidd is on his way here and he's coming from out of town. He's outside. I was going to say, ask Madam Chair if we could revisit this down the line when he got here. But if he's here,
Yeah.
could y'all get
Absolutely.
him
Get him in
in?
there.
Because I don't want someone to drive from way out of town to come here and
Yeah.
then I'd be able to speak.
Right. 1 second. Right.
He might have gone to the restroom. So
I can entertain y'all on something. Have y'all noticed that the kids are wearing these hoodies in like 100 degrees? Do y'all know why?
No.
So I get a chance to speak to them. And of course, you know, they're on Snapchat, Twitter, and they don't really like Facebook. They say it's too old for them. But nonetheless, they see a lot of the people that are influential wearing hoodies like in California or when Drake is in New York or, you know, and it's a different climate. They assume that that's a trendy thing. So it's not really about whether it's hot or cold, but it's more so about it's the trend. And so I just thought I like to share that story because a lot of times our youth are overlooked because we don't even ask them the right questions. And I say, hey man, listen, it's 100 degrees out there. Why are you wearing that hoodie? And in large part, what we're hearing across the different parishes we're working in, that it's mostly a trend. So I just wanted to share that.
So that goes along with what you said earlier, that you're putting the right person in the right place to talk to people.
Absolutely.
Someone who can understand that. At my age, I don't understand that, but somebody at 25 can do it. So that's what I was getting ready to ask. Okay.
So we do the work so you don't have to.
You got
All right,
it.
Mr. Kidd. All right. We went over.
Mr. Kidd, would you like to come up? Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. Frank Kidd, originally here. And so the problem that we're here to solve is that, you know, this program started last year and they weren't able to spend almost half the money, all right? Fortunately, the state was not penalized, so just last month, they allocated another 10.5 million, and we want to make sure that we spend all of it. So I had 3 quick points that I wanted to make, and I'll try to be very brief. My first point, education is the rising tide that lifts all boats. I know that personally. I was probably born in poverty because I think teachers make so little money that it's probably possible for 2 teachers to still be below the poverty line in 1963 when I was born. But when I turned 10 in 1973, my father used his master's plus 30 to become the assistant principal at H.L. Bourgeois. And so my family used education to end hundreds of years of poverty. And I know through this program, we can help end poverty in families. That $5 million, or $5 million that wasn't spent last year, that was enough money to send 1,562 people to school. And those aren't just 1,562 random people. Those are that's enough money to educate 174 someone from 174 low-income families in each of your districts. And so the goal is for this year for us to bring more people into the program. Last Friday, I met with the Chancellor of Fletcher's Special Assistant and the Vice President for Student Enrollment and Development, and Mr. Guidry from TITA was also, he participated via telephone. And so TITA is on board, Fletcher is on board. Is Mr. Guidry here? Yeah. Okay. He didn't make any promises, but he told me that he would look under the TITA sofa to see if there was a few dollars under the sofa. So I'll hold him to that. Okay. So that's the first point I wanted to make, is that education is the rising tide that lifts all boats. The second point I want to make is that for me, this is kind of deja vu because I retired from the federal government 4 years ago, and then I came back and started getting involved in STEM education. Worked with STEM NOLA, I worked with the Cyber Innovation Center, and I worked with the Louisiana STEM Advisory Council, and I helped stand up the regional center, which is in Fletcher right now, the STEM Center. Um, so about that same time, and I know we're not supposed to address the council by name, so I won't mention any names, but about 3 years ago, I talked to a member of the school board whose brother happens to sit on this council. Okay, and I told him that we should probably start offering computer science classes in Terrebonne Parish. And he said something very profound. He said, we have to do that or our kids will be behind. And he referred me to then Deputy Superintendent Bubba Ogeron. So I talked to Bubba at probably the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021. And then that following fall, all 4 high schools in Terrebonne, public schools in Terrebonne Parish started offering computer science classes. And I taught 2 classes at Ellender. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but I just want to talk about this very, very briefly because that following year, Louisiana, the state legislature passed the Louisiana Computer Science Education Act, and the Computer Science Education Advisory Committee was created. They've been meeting for a year. I've attended a couple of meetings. So basically, this December, they're going to submit their report for establishing a K through 12 computer science curriculum. So the fact that Terrebonne Parish started 2 years ago means they don't have to start from scratch. They've already have 2 years experience in doing this in high schools. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's a couple of the recommendations that you see there. They're going to be recommending, I can't read that from here, but those are going to be the recommendations that, all high schools offer computer science courses. You're probably going to see those recommendations start to be implemented next school year. And then in 3 years, they're going to determine whether or not they're going to make a computer science class a requirement for graduation in Louisiana. Next slide, please. Okay, so this graph kind of shows where we're at. The bad news is that we spend less money on computer science than all those states. The good news is that we know it, and we're trying to do something about it. That slide is kind of misleading though, because that's state level money. Local jurisdictions are already doing computer science, and they're doing it kind of on their own dollar. But hopefully the state will show some leadership, and they will, they'll put some statewide money towards this that can then be sent out to the local school districts. And I want to close by mentioning the 2 people that are most responsible for me being here. And those 2 people are my parents. A portrait of my parents, Mr. Frank Kidd Jr. and Miss Louise Kidd, hangs in the Terrebonne Parish African American History Museum. And it's there because my parents were a positive influence in this community, each of them, for 55 years. They helped thousands of people in this community in all professions. I run into people all the time that tell me, hey, I was out of money. Your dad helped me get a scholarship to Grambling. I was out of money. I was about to drop out of school. Your dad found out and helped me get in school. Your mom's ruler kept me on the straight and narrow. My mom taught me in kindergarten, or my dad's board of education, for those who got sent to the office at Bourgeois, kept them on the straight and narrow. People tell me that they don't make men like my dad anymore. I mean, I hear this kind of stuff all over town. And so this program has the potential to help, with our support, this program has the potential to help more people in 5 years or less than my parents helped in 55 years. I believe the potential for this program is that great. And you know, this year, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I consider myself part of the original hip hop generation. You know, hip hop started in 73, I was born in 63. So in many rap songs, there's a lyric that says, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Well, this makes dollars and sense, because if 1,000 people from Terrebonne Parish can utilize this program to increase their salary by $30,000 a year, then that's $30 million per year. So think of it as a 2-year program. So every other year, potentially $30 million could come into this local economy. If you take a third of that for taxes, okay, state, federal, local, Social Security taxes, if they bring home a third of that, that's $20 million more added to this local economy, which is money is the blood of any capitalistic system. So that's $20 million flowing to furniture stores, restaurants, houses, car dealerships, you name it. So this is really important, and I believe that God has already blessed us with what we need to get this done. I believe that the knowledge, skills, education, contacts, everything that's required to get this done is in this building right now. Anything that's created in Baton Rouge has to be implemented locally. We are the foot soldiers that are tasked with implementing this program. The state's already done what they need to do. First, they created the program, and then this past year, they passed a law giving people a whole year to do the FAFSA. So the success of this program is going to be up to us. Fletcher's already told me that they will work with anyone that Louisiana Council of Resources brings to them. So I'll close by saying this. My father went into the hospital for the final time on June 7th, 2013. 2 days before that, on June 5th, I saw him working on an order for food for the Plymouth Rock Baptist Church Food Bank. So if my father, at 78 years old, with a defibrillator attached to his heart, if he could work on an order for food for this community 2 days before he went to the hospital, and less than a month before he passed away, what would be our excuse for not doing this? As far as I'm concerned, there is none. We have what we need. We just have to be willing, and I know that if we're willing, we can help people. And I had some good news today. Today was the first day of school in Baton Rouge. That's why I was late. I learned that if I work, I can't stop by my house in Gonzales. I have to come straight here. But I teach 2 computer science classes. I'm in 2 cybersecurity classes at Woodlawn High School. So today, a female senior, asked if she could go to the guidance counselor to switch out of my class. And I said, well, wait, hold up. Before you do that, let me tell you what's available to you in cybersecurity. So I told her that there are 750,000 vacant cybersecurity positions in the United States, and the average salary for those cybersecurity positions is $113,270. And she changed, and also I showed them some jobs on Indeed. The lowest paying job that I showed them in the Baton Rouge area was $78,000. And I also showed them what I made 4 years ago before I retired. And she changed her mind, and she stayed in the class. So that tells me that we have the power to influence people. If we can do it at Woodlawn High School, we can do it at our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have one more light, Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Mr. Kidd, I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing for our younger people. You know, this program, it starts out at Fletcher. But I think programs like this should start out with kids that's in the 8th, 9th, 10th grade at school. Because I've seen where the state of South Dakota's done it, where they know these kids that are not going to be going to college. And they'll start them out in technical schools, learning how to weld, how to be electricians, how to be plumbers, because out of every 5 plumbers that leave the industry, there's only 1 plumber that goes back into the industry. And we know that some of these guys with technical schools and they go to learn all these trades, sometimes they make, well, not sometimes, a lot of times they make more than these guys that have college degrees.
Yes,
so I
they
think
do.
this is something that should be started off in our public schools when these young kids are vulnerable. And when they get to the 10th, 11th, well, let's say 11th to 12th grade, and we can get some of these companies that could put them on apprenticeships, where it could show that they could go out to the world and make a couple of dollars out of this. And when they finally graduate, they can go out to the real world. South Dakota's giving them that first year after they graduate into the real world, no state income tax that they have to pay. You know, and I think that's something maybe the state of Louisiana could look at. But what this does, though, it changes our whole society. Because if we could get these kids to learn how the work ethic, to go to work, make a paycheck, when they have a family and they come home, when they have young kids, and when they get up every morning to go to work, and these young kids see that mom and dad is going to work, and this is the way life is supposed to be. Maybe we could change society as it is. And, you know, it'll stop the drug abuse, it'll stop the crimes, but it's not going to take and be done overnight.
No.
It's going to be, because this problem we have did not happen overnight.
No.
So we need to take this and make it a long-range project, but this needs to be started off, you guys going to Fletcher, but this needs to be started off in high school. We know which kids are college material or not college material. We still need to teach them simple math. We need to teach them how to read and write, you know, but we need, for our society to change, this is the only way to make a change. And you guys are doing a great part in this, you know what I mean? Because this is what we need to do. We need to get these kids that are vulnerable to go out into the neighborhoods, do drugs, stealing. If we could show them a new career field ahead of them, and especially when they get to the 11th, 12th grade in school, where they could go to school for half a day and go be an apprentice for an air conditioning company, you know, or whatever, and we could show them that they can make money at this doing, I think it could change our society. And it would take 15, 20 years for it to totally change, because it's not going to happen overnight, because the problem didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So this is something that y'all doing at Fletcher, but we need to bring this into our public school systems.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Can you please come to the mic?
No problem. For LaPouche Parish, they have dual enrollment for the IPT. I just want to share this with you because I had a young man who was 17 years old starting off over at Fletcher with a dual enrollment. He finished up within a year because he already had credits from LaPouche Parish. When he finished up, he put in a little time, and that's my recommendation: get your foot in the door. So I was able to help him get his foot in the door with one of the companies to get some experience. He just sent me an email, we were talking about yesterday, letting me know that he is now working for Cheryl Narco, and he's making now, at 19 years old, he's making over $80,000 a year.
For sure. You know.
So the thing is, though, I've been trying my best before I retired to have Terrebonne Parish, because we do not have dual enrollment for the IPT program in Terrebonne Parish. I've been trying my best to get them to get it up and going again. My predecessor, whoever's taking my place right now, Mr. Albert Lered, I passed this information on to him. But you guys might be able to help as for getting them jump started again, because I'm seeing the opportunity being missed by Terrebonne Parish. LaFouche Parish has an excellent program, and we can mimic, and Terrebonne used to have it before I got there. I don't know what happened, but it went away. And from there, these students here in Terrebonne Parish are missing that opportunity, because you're looking at less money having to be paid to go to school, and then they'll be finished up in a short period of time, and then they can start making money almost immediately. After they do a year of training with me when I was there, I'm already trying to get them hired on. And that gets them their experience, and then from there, once they get a little experience, the majors will pick them up.
You know, it's,
I'm sorry. Please turn it back on.
it's great that Lafourche Parish is doing it. How many, and Terrebonne's not doing it, but how many parishes throughout the whole state of Louisiana, the 64 parishes, that are not doing it? So we need to get it passed from Baton Rouge with education and all, that it starts in Baton Rouge, not just in Lafourche Parish or Terrebonne Parish, but where it's mandated statewide, you know? But we need to change our society, and if we're gonna change our society, the only way you're gonna change society is if a man or a woman gets up every morning and goes to work, earns a living, and their kids see that they're earning a living, and in turn, they go out and do the same thing, you know? So, thank y'all for what y'all do. Y'all do a great job. So,
I just want to do a quick response too, because I know Bubba. I haven't. He's on my speed dial, on his speed dial. So you're
dial.
Councilman Guidry, right?
yes, sir.
I will text Bubba and give him a heads up and let him know that you mentioned high schools, because we have VOTEC. Okay, we have VOTEC.
It doesn't go far enough.
Okay, well, I believe right now, because when I was at Ellendale, I chaperoned a field trip to VOTEC. And I remember a story by the auto mechanics teacher. He talked about a former student, female, 21 years old, had all the certifications in auto mechanics, was making over six figures, swapped out the engine in his truck, and it runs like brand new. So that, I know that is possible, that is feasible. So I think right now, students can't go to VOTEC until their junior and senior year. And also at Woodlawn today, I subbed for a class that's called CTE. It's an internship class where the kids go to school for half a day and then leave school early and go to work. Matter of fact, they have to have a job. Now, it could be anything. It could be Burger King, Target, whatever, but they just have to have a job. So, but I will text Bubba, let him know about this, and let him know that you inquired about expanding this kind of stuff in high school. All right.
Thank you, Mr. John Amity. Okay, Mr. Dirk?
Yeah, because, you know, they've had a few of them, like with the automotive departments and all at school, that have come over here, and they have won state championships and all, you know, but we only had 5 or 6. You know, how many thousands of kids they got in Terrebonne Parish schools? We need to make it bigger than what it is, bigger and better. You know, we have to have up-to-date if you're going to go into the automotive business, we have to have up-to-date modern technology across the whole world, because when they leave that school and they go into that body shop or that automotive shop or wherever they go, they need to know what they're doing, not just the basics, but they really need the basics, but they need to know a little bit more than the basics.
So one of the kids in the class that I subbed for the day, he works in a tire shop, and he is certified in alignment. He's senior in high school, but he's already certified in alignment, and he's done a lot of stuff on his own. So he is feasible, but like I said, I'm no longer an employee of the Terrebonne Parish School System, but I will let Bubba know that you are interested in this.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I'm gonna stay here, because every time I try to leave.
Thank you, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Mr. Kidd, I never had to go before the Board of Education with your father. I had to go before him, but it never reached that level. Now, you were talking about the Computer Science Committee. They're going to be presenting that report to the legislature this year.
The Bessie, the governor, to everybody in December.
Okay, we'll keep looking for that. My wife sits on the Education Committee in the House. But going back to the MJ Foster program, and Dr. Delaney, you're talking about how you guys go out and find the people, bringing everything to them. That makes them more comfortable, and I agree with that. Are you guys going to attempt the same thing so that we make sure we spend all this $10 million and don't give any of it back?
Absolutely.
Okay, so so I guess I just want to make sure that we target those kids and get out there.
I'm glad you mentioned it. Can we go back to that first slide, please? Go back to that first slide.
If you want to get on the mic, Mr. Kidd, so we can
So
get
here's
you on
my
the
ask.
recording.
I don't want a penny, okay? Here is my ask. What I think, one of the things that I think this council can do, besides providing resources, that 2 years ago, I went to a town hall meeting at Dumas, June, I think it was June of 2021, 2 months before Ida, on hurricane and emergency preparedness. It turns out that meeting was very timely. What I'm hoping is that this council will sponsor a town hall meeting on this, where we can bring people in from the community. We can talk about this. We can have someone from Fletcher talk about this. Mr. George can talk about his experience. And that's what I think this council can do is I think you all can reach out to your constituents and we can have a town hall meeting because most people don't know about this program. Most people do not know. So my ask from this council is that's why if you look at the bottom slide, it says, please attend the town. We don't have a date yet. So I'm hoping we can fill that in and have a town hall meeting and tell people about the opportunities that are available to them. Thank you.
So what I think we'll do is, I know that you guys have been in communication with Mr. Harding. I think we'll leave him as the point guy from the council and working with both the town hall, which is easy to do, and as well as any of the other financial stuff that we can maybe pull together with our budget coming up, our budget talks coming up. And so again, thank you guys for all that you do. I appreciate it because I didn't know about it. But I mean, we got to take advantage of every opportunity we get. People talk about, man, I pay taxes and it goes to Washington. We never see it. Well, let's get every penny of it back that we can. So again, thank you guys for coming out and sharing this with us.
This was created in Baton Rouge. This is a state program.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to Washington. This is something that we can do ourselves with our state.
Y'all want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Make a motion.
Yeah.
All right. My colleagues are saying that we should make a motion to move forward with this, so I'll make a motion that as a council, we take the steps necessary to form the relationship and see that the council works with you guys, LaCour, and get this program up and running in the parish.
Unanimous second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Amity, and we have a call for a unanimous second by Mr. Babin. Vote. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Motion to go to
Thank you so
6:30
much.
public hearing.
We have a motion to go to 6:30 public hearing by Mr. Dirk Guidry and a second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. 7 yeas. We're in 6:30 public hearing. Item A, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the Parish of Terrebonne as to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 Multifamily Residential, Lot 41, Block B, Mechanicville, 122 Banks Avenue, Houma, Louisiana. Freddie Johnson is the applicant. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Gerald Michel, second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, public's closed.
Motion adopted.
Motion adopted by Mr. Brian Pledger, second by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item B, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the Parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from OL open land to R1 Single Family Residential to R1 Single Family Residential, Lot 13, Block 2, Woodlawn Ranch Acres, addendum number 3, 773 East Woodlawn Ranch Road, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Leslie Marie applicant. Public once, public twice, third time
Motion
public.
closed.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas.
Motion adopted.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item C, an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Houma Restoration District to provide access for the district to TPCG-owned and operated public spaces for purposes of maintenance of vegetation, removal of trash or weeds, and regular beautification and cleanup of those public spaces in Houma, Louisiana. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Gerald Michel, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, public is closed. Motion to adopt by Mr. Gerald Michel, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas, motion passes. Item D, an ordinance to amend the 2023 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. FMA flood mitigation, $953,245. LA 24 sidewalk rehab project, $28,887. Civic Center sidewalk project, we have a credit of $14,782. Louisiana Highway Safety Commission grant award, $77,940. Houma Police Department, $35,241. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Second.
Second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. Public is closed.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to go back in regular order.
We have motion to go back in regular order by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Members, vote your machines. We're back in regular order. Item B under general business, a resolution urging the U.S. Secretary of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative to implement the existing measures to limit the overall volume of imported shrimp in America and in order to ensure the survival of our domestic wild caught shrimp harvesters and America's access to wild harvested shrimp from domestic waters, urging the commissioners of the International Trade Commissioners when considering imports to include all forms of shrimp from countries and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Moved by Mr. Steve Trosclair and a second by Mr. Dirk Gidry. We do have a few speaker cards. Can we please have Ms. Kendra Arnson, Lucy Pinell, and Ms. Kim Chauvin come to speak about this? And Ms. Kendra.
Good evening, council members. I am Captain Kendra Arneson, and I come from Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. My address is 280 Tangelo Drive in Buras. As you're all, I'm sure, aware, it's all over the news, our shrimp industry here in Louisiana and in other states is in serious trouble. We've been in serious trouble for a long time. I've done a lot of research, and in order to know where we're going, I feel like we must know where we've been. And looking back on all of the failed attempts to address this issue, I see a lot of gaps in those attempts. And I think moving forward that we need a longer-term solution, but what I've brought to the council this evening is going to be a temporary solution. That's a fact. This is emergency measures that we're asking the federal government to take to restrict the overall amount of flow of imported shrimp into this country. I'm going to ask them for 3 to 5 years. My goal in doing this and asking you for a resolution of support is that to garner enough support from our coastal parishes that are elected by our fishermen for our coast to bring a collective voice to Washington, D.C. Under the Biden administration, there's an executive order on equity and environmental justice, and we check all boxes as fishermen. So the directive to these heads of agencies are to represent us and utilize all resources at their disposal to do so. So my goal is to bring this unified voice to DC and in hopes that they take action and that we can get some measures implemented to restrict that flow. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you. We do have one question, Mr. Michel.
Yeah, and you may know the answer to this, Madam Chairwoman. Was there any discussion of this at the coastal committee that occurs with NACO? Do you recall that?
Yes, there was.
There was discussion on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is some national emphasis to make the federal government aware.
Yes, sir. And actually, this exact resolution was adopted by the Plaquemines Parish Council as well as the St. Bernard Parish Council. So we're just going to be joining in with them to advocate. And it's just basically asking our state and federal delegation to take action on this.
Yeah, no, I don't have any hesitation on this. It's just, I was just wondering if the organization that meets with NACO also discussed this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Guidry.
Yeah, can you tell me whatever happened to the Bird Amendment money that you guys used to get? Did they just take it from you and Washington just decided to keep it?
Yes, sir. From what I understand, it's been quite a few years back. There's still like a minimal amount that some fishermen seem to be applying for, but they're going through the application process, and some of them are getting under $5 checks. So I think that money went to, I think it's the Kennedy Kennedy stall something, but I'm not positive, so please don't quote me on that. But that money is no, there's no access for us anymore. It was shifted.
So wherever they shifted it to, it's got nothing to do with shrimp or seafood, domestic.
I think Kim Chauvin could probably answer more questions on the bird money than what I can.
Yes, the Kim Chauvin, 5248 Bayou Side Drive in Chauvin. What happened with the Bird Amendment is the WTO came against the industry and said that it was a subsidy and that they are against subsidies, which is really laughable because every other country is being subsidized by our own government and their government. But they took that, put it in a general fund, and I think through the ASPA meeting we were discussing it. They get $50 to $60 million per year in the federal government to put in the general fund, and not once has any of that money ever come into the shrimp industry. And I'm not talking about emergency funds for hurricanes, because that's a whole different animal. But nothing has ever come back into the shrimp industry, such as going into that industry on marketing, fuel subsidies. I mean, you name it, it has never come down. So that's what's happened to that part of it.
But the monies y'all derived from this, it was by so much, how much your catch was per pound that each fisherman would have to file paperwork, or was just per fishing license? How would you get the money?
So it had to do more with the paperwork that you filled out, and it had, I think you had to go back like so many years, and you were telling them what you caught, the money derived from that. But it had to do with the tariffs that came in, and then that was something that the federal government figured out and then sent a check and in part to fishermen, processors, and docks at that point in time. But that was stopped. I think it's 2005. So anything that those countries owe beforehand, because there are countries that have not paid, now we still get little checks. But I think Lucy was just saying she got a whole $10.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So that's what's happened to that. But anything moving forward from that time, that all goes into the general fund of the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. We have one more question. Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Yes, thank you. Kim, you could probably answer this, or
Okay.
I guess it's more of a statement than anything, or maybe even a question. My father is a retired, well, he's deceased now, but he was fishing until he couldn't fish anymore, got too old to fish. He was a trawler. And in the 80s and early 90s, when things really started getting raucous in the shrimping industry, and the imported shrimps really started hitting and hurting our industry. We formed I was young. They formed a task of shrimp, seafood task force, and then first thing you know, their mission was to unify the trawlers and go to Washington and lobby against this stuff, get lobbyists and do that thing. Then they had a bunch of offshoots, and then first thing you know, these organizations were bickering amongst each other instead of going to Washington and doing what they should have been doing. Fighting the people that could help them, put it that way. How is that situation now? I mean, I'm not in touch. Do we have a unified? Because I don't care what war you go into. You win war in numbers. Power comes in numbers. And if you faction this, you're shrimping it. It's small enough already as it is now. If you keep factioning it off into different groups and they fight each other instead of fighting the people who can help them, we need to do that.
So you have two groups. You have ASPA, American Shrimp Processors Association. They have a lobbyist that goes in and does the lobbying on that part. And you have Southern Shrimp Alliance, which is on the fishermen's side. And they're pretty much working together. But listen, take a dartboard, bullseye. That's the shrimp industry. And I'm telling you, there are so many things coming at us that you feel like you're so overwhelmed and fighting it. And in one place, NOAA, who should be helping out, has been so scared of environmentalists suing them. And I'm like, I don't understand that, because you should be fighting them with the information that we give you off of electronic logbooks and everything else. So the information's there. You have to present it in a manner that shows what we're actually doing compared to the propaganda that's been out there. So there are two of them that are there and lobbying in those efforts. But you'd have to look at, there's a long list of things that are being looked at.
But they're working for the most part jointly.
They do,
Yeah,
but
okay.
listen, you still have two sets of things happening here.
Right.
That processor has no idea what that boat's going through in the regulation part of it. Those boats have no idea what's coming down from FDA or Department of Commerce or LDH, any of those things. So there are some things that are separated. There are some things that are the same.
And one of the things that really, it boggles my mind is, our crawfishing industry is a very small seafood industry. I mean, it's probably the only place in the world that has a crawfish industry. And, they were able to lobby and tax the imported crawfish to where this is several years ago. Many, you might have not been born.
No,
yet, but
I do.
But
remember.
they do, their crawfish, imported crawfish, they're still here, but they're taxed enough that they're still cheaper than domestic, but they're not astronomically, separated in prices.
Our biggest adversary is the LRA. That's Louisiana Restaurant Association. And we have a lot of people, mom and pop shops here, who are not part of that and don't believe in it. Because what you have is people who are using imports and still getting the price,
Correct.
And then you have people who are really using our domestic shrimp, and it's very hard to tell the two. And so we do have a law in the state. They just put it to a critical point on restaurants where they have to have it on that menu. There is no excuse not to have it.
I still see a lot of them that don't.
So we need to start calling those in.
Exactly.
And so right now, I've been working on a flyer. I'm going to put out throughout the Louisiana, all the parishes and the LDH, who you have to call. It's very hard to navigate LDH. Have you been on their page? It's not fun looking up each parish representative that you have to call to turn them in.
Well, Mr. Hebert could attest to it. Probably a couple of months ago, I questioned him about seeing if it was the legalities of Terrebonne Parish passing an ordinance that would make it illegal for imported shrimp to be served, and we can't do it.
Well, there is an issue because the WTO states that if there is a health risk, that you can do so. And due to the WHO doing a study that shows that the contributing big factors to the next health crisis is coming from shrimp, imported shrimp and fish, which have antibiotics and other chemicals in it that will cause antibiotic resistance.
But our federal agencies they're not doing enough inspections on this stuff coming in for numbers to be where they need to be to really blow it out the water.
No, they're not. But if you get with LDH and you find out who the importers are, and if they want to so use this imported product, then all they would have to do is be made to pay for the testing, all testing, because it should not fall on the taxpayers. So the parish can do something, the state can do something, and then the federal government comes in.
Well,
but it's very complicated.
110%. Like I said, anything I can do to help you out, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Trosclair. Mr. Babin.
Yeah, Kim and ladies, I agree with you all 100%. I've been in this business for 38 years, the shrimp business, and testified in Washington myself numerous times. Getting back to, Dirk was asking about the bird money. We all, as processors and fishermen, got that for a long time. But these foreign countries that are subsidized by their governments, certain countries had a certain percentage that they had to pay into it. All they did was transship it to another country that was not had a tariff on it, and then it came in, they took it out of boxes and put it in others. What I want people to realize, look, 95% of the shrimp consumed in the United States comes from imported sources. That's sad, okay? But it does. But I want people to be aware, when you go to a restaurant and you order fried shrimp and the batter falls off of it, okay? 99 out of 100 times it's imported shrimp, but more than that, it's overtreated with what's called sodium tripolyphosphate. You can make 5 pounds out of 3. And it's not the use of the phosphate that is bad, it's the misuse of the phosphate. But the foreign countries are sending this in, super treated, and the problem lies is that I think the last estimate I got was about 2% of the shrimp entering the United States was tested by FDA. 2%. And what fails in Europe, in the European Union, they ship to the United States because they know that we don't have the laws and the wherewithal or the desire to stop it, okay? There's a reason behind all of it, and you know, we play on a world stage today economically, okay? So it's not an easy problem, one to solve, as Kim and these ladies have said. It's one that's been addressed for a long time. To address the two factions, it's always been, you know, I like to always tell a story as a processor. If I'm standing on a conveyor and shrimp are coming across, as the processor, all I see is the small shrimp in there, and all the shrimper sees is the big shrimp in there. That's why we take a 3-pound count to average it out. But the point still remains is we are closer as an industry now than we've ever been. But the problem is we squandered off a lot of years when we should have been together, and we're not. So I'm in full agreement with this resolution, and we can do things on the local level by exposing and you're absolutely right, not only Louisiana Shrimp Association, but the National Restaurant Association, excuse me, it has been a stumbling block for every one of us because they're a big organization. You know, when you have 20 million restaurants in the United States and they paying $1 a person, that's $20 million they can fight. We don't have the money in the industry to fight these people. So it takes government helping out, and up until this point, our federal government, and to the most part, our state government and local governments have not been able to participate and not give us the wherewithal to move it forward. So, you know, every step we take is a good step in the final decision on all of this product. So again, I have no problem with this as someone in the industry, okay, to try to move this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. I echo everything that everyone said today, and I appreciate you ladies bringing this to my attention and bringing this to us. I do have one question, and Cohen, you're here with Tita. Cohen, is there any possibility that we could possibly do an economic study on the impact of the seafood industry here in Terrebonne Parish, just so that we can get some data?
Kim and I have already started to discuss, not to that level, but I've got requests into Wildlife and Fisheries for the shrimp, and they can break it down by parish in the state and everything like that. I'd have to look into the economic impact of it and get some assistance on that, and we'll put a dollar figure to that. But yeah, it's definitely something we can do.
Yeah, because I think that our seafood industry is very important. It's one of the pillars of the foundation of Terrebonne Parish is the seafood industry. And so we absolutely need to do everything we can to support these guys. Mr. Babin, do you have another?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing. You know, on the lower level, on our level, going to a restaurant and buying things, don't be afraid to ask that waitress to get the manager and ask them where the shrimp is from. But what happens is and all these ladies will attest to it, if a customer buys 50 cases of shrimp, that's 2,500 pounds, he's going to buy 45 of them, 2,250 pounds of imports, and he's going to buy 250 pounds of domestic, and when you ask to see the box, he's going to go in his freezer and he's going to pull out the domestic box, okay? And he's going to tell his employees, you know, we using this, but show everybody that it's a game that a lot of them have been playing, and we need to break. And the only way we can stop that is stop buying from the restaurants that are using it. Okay, we have a number of them locally that are using it right here, and I mean, again, we just have to be as purchasers of the product. we need to be a little bit more aware, okay? So, again, shrimp is really a problem. Am I finished?
I fully appreciate and understand that, and I only eat Louisiana seafood. I'm actually eating some Louisiana shrimp tonight. Ms. Kim, do you guys have anything else to add?
Yes, I would like to, because one of the things that I think this parish needs to realize is that for a long time, you haven't looked at the seafood industry as a whole, and I'm so glad that you asked for the economics of it, because it's more than a woman or a man on a boat. This goes way further. At our dock, we have people who come from Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, Florida. These people are not coming here just to unload and leave. They actually come in, they'll go out and eat, they'll rent a car to go home. These are all the economics that we have to look at. And I want you to think to the west of you, from St. Mary Parish, who used to be number one in seafood. How many boats do you see in St. Mary Parish anymore? Then you go to Delcombe. Guess what happened to them? They went down hard. You have processors there, but you have no docks buying, and those processors do not buy from the boats at that point, okay? The ice house and another processing plant was just bought by an importer because he actually wanted the distribution, I think it was in Houston. Guess what happened to that processing plant and that ice house? It is now gone. So you have one ice house in, where is it? Abapacorn Island. What would that be? The bigger boats go there. Anyway, and they're only open at certain times. So from St. Mary Parish all the way to Texas, they have allowed the whole seafood industry to go down. So guess what Terrebonne is? Terrebonne Parish is going to be the hub, and let me tell you why. So you have all of this happening on this side. I get tons of people from the west coming to unload. Okay? They drive here, they eat here. They pick up stuff in the convenience store, so they're spending money here. But then you go to the east of us, and they have those freshwater diversion projects. Anybody who knows anything about seafood knows that when that fresh water is going to hit that salt water, and it's going to kill off a lot of the seafood, it's going to force those fishermen over here. So we really need to open our eyes, take a good look at what we have here, and let's not let it die. You know, and that's a big part of what we need to look at when we're looking also at the economics of what you have now, but what's coming your way, you know. And we have many of those, you know, I have to say that we've lost a lot so far, okay? The state has lost economically. And I just have to ask you, do we have to wait and sit back and do we lose it too? Do we lose it here in Terrebonne Parish, or do we do something about it?
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Darren Guidry?
Yeah, Kim, and your point is well made. You know, they call it a shrimp and petroleum festival in Morgan City, but it's really a petroleum festival because there's no more shrimp left. And I think, you know, we're kind of at a crossroads here in Terrebonne Parish as well. And I really would like to get together maybe in the next few weeks with you and maybe Mr. Guidry with Tita and share some ideas about some other ways that we can do what we need to do as a parish to help the industry, and how, you know, how we can do that on our own, because I don't know if the federal government is going to come in and save us. You know, they didn't save us from flooding. We had to build our own levees, and I don't think they're going to save our seafood industry. It's going to be up to us to do it. And I have a few ideas I'd like to share to see if it's workable, but maybe we can get together and do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Mr. Daniel Babin?
Yeah, just to give some statistics out there, okay? I said I was been in this business 38 years. 30 years ago, there were close to 50 peeling machines operating in Terrebonne Parish. 50. We have 4 now. 4. I have 2 at our plant. We don't even use them anymore because we cannot compete. The second statistic, and you've heard me say this before, I was fortunate enough to sit on the Wildlife and Fisheries Commission. The last year that I was chairman, we sold over 14,500 commercial shrimping licenses. Last year, I think they sold 7,000. All right. So when we're dying on the processing end, and we're dying on the fishing end, and we can't sustain an industry without either one of them. And so where are we going to go? So we need to look at this and look at it very hard, because if we continue like we are, in 10 years, we will not have a seafood industry in Terrebonne Parish, nor in the state of Louisiana. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Yes, one more thing.
In the 30 years, when you're going back, there were 30,000 fishermen on the EEZ from Florida to Texas. Want to know how many there are now? 700. And not all 700 go out fishing anymore.
Thank you so much for bringing this to us. We do have a motion and a second. Members vote your,
Last lady say something.
I'm sorry, did you have one more thing to say, ma'am?
I just wanted to thank you all for the time and thank Kim Chauvin and our new representative, Lucy from Southern Shrimp Alliance, for coming tonight and giving us this time and attention. What we're going through here in Louisiana in the seafood industry is intentional. Make no mistake, we didn't get here by accident. We've been gamed. We've been gamed by big people with golden parachutes. The feet never touch the ground. And they're not going to stop coming, because when you build something worth having, someone's going to want it. There is an overall agenda and an end goal. Nowadays, in spaces and places where fishery policy is created, the term reduction of capacity of the fleet is spoken out loud. A Blue Wave initiative is a global initiative, and they want our water bottom. That's the bottom line. But what do we lose with that? We lose culture, heritage, and we lose access to wild-caught, naturally grown seafood. So this is so important for not just those fishermen on the coast, all of us, and our processors and docks and whatnot, but this is important for all Americans' access to this vital food source for our nation's food sovereignty. So I would just like to, again, thank you all for your time and your attention to this important matter, and we will be back with more items moving forward in the months and weeks and years to come. So
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We have a motion and a second. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item 2, council members request discussion of Councilman Carl Harding, discussion and possible action regarding co-sponsorships and insurance policies for events at recreation district facilities. Mr. Harding? You want to hit your light?
Yeah, I had passed this out, and something I ran into. If I would draw a 6 in the sand, and someone stand on the opposite end of me, it's very possible they can see my 6 as a 9. And it's slightly illustrated here, and I got it off the internet. And it says, just because you are right does not mean that I'm wrong. You just haven't seen life from my side. And we up here, and oftentimes we have opinions, and it seems as if that, for me to bring this up, it's almost sound like the seafood industry. She made a statement that basically the right hand is not knowing what the left hand is doing, and somehow or another in between, they get messed up. But I look at, in the past, that we've had people come up here and ask for certain benefits and corporate agreements and this, that, and the other. And I recall a large company that basically came in and asked for a discount. They even went to a recreation district, and at the time I looked at the fact that even though they made millions of dollars, they came in and tried to get a waiver on the $1,500 that they were actually paying in reference to their involvement with recreation. And my recommendation to that recreation district, I stated that out of a measure of good faith, because they were operating in the red, $1,500 wouldn't have made that much difference. But then even to actually give someone that makes millions of dollars a credit and go under the threat of losing them and the economy that you have here. To get to a point, I think, not to even to look at my notes, we ran into a circumstance that I had to call our city attorney a reference to our HR parish attorney, I'm sorry. And the thing was, we were at a point, we see that some recreation districts in their millage, they have an opportunity to do different things. And we created this task force. We come out with a manual, and that manual dictates that we do certain things in a certain manner. But then there's some differences that we have, that some can actually have opportunities because of their millage. But the thing about insurance, because it had a circumstance that we need to get clarified, and I need to finish my statement, send this to the subcommittee to go to all the rest of the 9 recreation districts to come up and solve the problem with insurance. I understand we can't do anything free. We have to represent the citizens, we have to represent the parish, we have to represent the vendors and these recreation districts. So,
Mr. Harding, you know, you're not going to come out very good on the video sitting that far back. It's not going to hear it out. Okay.
okay,
I just wanted to make sure to get your point across. I wanted people to hear it.
okay, great. So to make it right to the point then, that was a circumstance when just recently someone wanted to get some haircuts, and just to give you just a scenario. You want to get some haircuts in an underserved area and at a recreation district. Eventually, he ended up cutting 40 hairs, and the value of 50 hairs at the value of $40 a cut, which is about $2,000, and he was required to actually get some insurance. We were trying to see how to have someone that's going to come in and make a donation of their time and their efforts to give to people that are needy and not charge them $300 to get the insurance. I tried to get an agreement with the recreation district to have them covered, but then they couldn't be covered because they had to go under the guidelines of the parish. So what I'm trying to send to the subcommittee is the fact that I would like to see these recreation districts, if there's nothing sanctioned on the calendar at that particular time, give those recreation districts some leeway and let the umbrella of their insurance cover some of these events when they giving back to these citizens. It's just like on the oil rig, whether the company I'm working for and I get injured there, in some cases they sue everybody that's involved on the rig. So if something is given at a recreation district and something happened and the parish stakes claim on all the property, those pieces of property, then the parish is already involved in it. So we would like to have that opportunity to visit that and see what the conversation could be, and allowing some of these recreation districts to actually give events and don't have to have the vendors pay so much for the insurance. And whatever manner they can do it. And I just want to get the opinion from all the other recreation districts to create the conversation and what their thoughts are about it. And I would enjoy to have comments.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Guidry, do you have your light on, sir?
Darren?
Darren, would you? Okay. I think Mr. Jules has a comment. Well, okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Darren Guidry.
Okay. I think what Mr. Harding, I think I'm trying to grasp what you're saying. And I assume like if a rec district sponsors a senior dinner and does a senior dinner, you know, they have it in the rec district, and I guess it's covered under the rec district's insurance. Guess what you're saying is if somebody comes in and provides something free, in a rec district should have the opportunity to co-sponsor it, in which case it would be a rec district function cutting, the rec district would be cutting the hair, just somebody would be doing it for the rec district. You know, it seems like that, I think that's what you're saying, and it seems something plausible. I guess it's something different if it's of somebody raising money or something like that. But if it's a free service and I guess the rec district wants to co-sponsor it, I don't see how it would be any different than a senior lunch or something the rec district does, themselves. It would just have to be a rec district sponsored function. That's the way I see it, and I don't think it's a reasonable ask. But I'll defer to our legal counsel.
Mr. Gerald Michel.
Okay, it's my understanding on these co-sponsorships that we approve almost at every set of committee meetings that they can select whatever aspect of that they want for the parish to co-sponsor with them up to $600, and one of those things might be the insurance policy. But the insurance policy, to my understanding, is still needed because it is not really sponsored by the parish. The parish is just helping them by helping, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the parish is helping them by paying for that insurance policy. So that insurance policy is still needed. So for the rec district to offer a co-sponsorship, then they would have to have the budget to be able to pay for that insurance. I don't think their insurance is going to cover it just because they said, hey, let's put this under our umbrella. They have to go by the terms of their policies. So, it's a question of who's going to pay for that. I would assume there's always opportunity if they're a nonprofit to come to the council and ask for co-sponsorship. But I don't know that I see the rec districts having the money in their budgets to be able to do such a co-sponsorship. The issue is I'll use the example of the guy cutting hair. They have to have insurance, liability insurance. Something happens on that property, and that co-sponsorship and that insurance for that event insurance is in part to protect the rec district as well on something that is not otherwise necessarily insured by that rec district. So, the question comes up is who's going to co-sponsor it and who's going to pay for that insurance policy? I don't think we can just automatically put that insurance policy underneath the rec district's or the parish's insurance. Okay, that's my understanding, and I'll look forward to hearing what legal has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Mr. Amity.
All right, so first, co-sponsorships in the parish has to meet criteria. One being that it has to give some economic value to the parish, and secondly, that it's open to everyone. So I want to take the word co-sponsorship out. And what I would rather see, and we'll hear from legal, and I took some notes so that the subcommittee can take up the issue with legal to see what we can do. But to me, I think a rec district can take this on as a project, and their insurance would definitely cover it, because if they go out and I know Rec 1 goes out through the summer and they put water slides and bounce houses in their parks. They rotate them around through their parks. So the public's coming and enjoying that. So I would think in the instance, the example Mr. Harding gave, I think if someone approached the rec district board and asked them to take this on as a function of the rec district, that they would provide the barbers and what have you, then I think maybe they could probably do that. So I guess we'll hear what Mr. Jules has to say, and then we'll proceed further with what we need to do in the.
Mr. Harding.
Yeah, and that's basically my point, because there certain things can be done through people's millage. So what you may be doing, Rec 1 is doing out there in your area, but then say for instance, Rec 8, they don't have the same opportunity because their millage does not actually say that. But then we want them to honor their millage, but then also honor the package that we actually had them to follow. So, if you're giving the goose one thing, we were looking at the gander, and we want the goose and the gander to have the same opportunities. So you can't handcuff these guys, and we don't want to deter people. Especially, I just might as well just put it out there on the table. Rec 11, and some of these people that are coming here, you can't ask these people for money. when then there's no money there and somebody's trying to give to that particular community, and one of their own people is giving back to the community, they're going to deter them from trying to do that because it costs too much. We already paying millage taxes. They have millions of dollars. We want to give them an opportunity to use some of those funds to let those folk go and don't always have to come to the parish. They have an opportunity to do that. We don't want to cut it up. I believe, and let's get this straight, because that's generally what the problem is. I don't believe they should have it free. But when they're providing a service for the people within that community, then, they should be able to use that money to help to provide for services. They just, adult softball complex, last night's meeting, they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and twenties of thousands of dollars in reference to something that's open for all the public. All the districts are open to certain individuals, but basically these recreation districts are designed to support the communities that they are in. Generally, that's the thing. That's why Rec 11 have 20-some parks, because they have a large responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Abear.
I'm on. Councilman Harding called me today, Mr. Artigo called me, and I'm going to give the legal side and I'm going to give the practical side. On the entity spending the funds must have the legal authority to do so and must be able to show, number one, a public purpose for expenditure or transfer that comports with the governmental purpose that legal entity has the legal authority to pursue. Which means is that if it's the recreation district and the recreation district is in the business of providing recreation, then the expenditure of the public funds has to be some form of recreation. All right. Number two is that the expenditure or transfer taken as a whole does not appear to be gratuitous. And number three, that the public entity has a demonstrable objective and reasonable expectation of receiving at least equivalent value in exchange for the expenditure or transfer of public funds. Which means is that if you pump out $1 and you spending the government or taxpayers' dollars, you got to get at least $1 back or equivalent. Now, it does not necessarily mean that it has to be in terms of dollars, but it's got to be in terms of value. With regards to the council and the way the co-sponsorships are handled, the parish obviously has a big budget, and I believe Candace has budgeted, that as part of the budget, the co-sponsorships are budgeted up to a limited amount of $500 or $600. So people come in here, y'all have developed a form, and they come in here and we evaluate, the council and legal and finance evaluates the forms, they ask for help. And insurance can be paid with part of that, a maximum amount of $600 as long as it meets this criteria. Now, the flip side of the matter is what I think Councilman Hardin wants to see is that the rec districts can start doing the same thing as a council. That presents a separate obstacle because what he's saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carly, but I think I'm gonna put it clear what you're saying. Some rec districts got plenty of money, they could do it, the other ones don't. So rec district A may be able to offer that assistance, whereas rec district B can't. Okay, but that doesn't change the law. Okay, and that doesn't change the economics. So, as Dana told me today, if we're gonna allow vendors to come on facilities, those vendors have to meet the insurance requirements to come on parish property that we normally require of everybody that comes on parish property. Now, some of the rec districts, as I understand, are insured under the parish's insurance, and the parish charges them so much money per month for that insurance coverage. Okay, that's how it works. Some of them go out and buy their own policies. What's the extent and scope of those coverages, I don't know. But what Dana's concern is Dana wants to come and explain it unless if I say something different, Dana, correct me. But I believe what Mr. Artigo's concerns are from the insurance and risk management standpoint is that if you allow somebody to come on your facility, let's say that's a private entity, or private corporation, or private person, and they are providing that public benefit, and you are allowing them to use the facility because you can justify the use of that facility and say, well, what they're doing for the public is a recreational or type event, and they given the use of the facility, let's say for 2 or 3 hours, what they're doing covers, they're giving back. But what he's more concerned about is that, say, who's gonna pay and cover their claims if somebody files a lawsuit or claim against the parish that could result, or against the parish and the district, because they're gonna both get sued? Who's gonna cover that? So in other words, when it's just like on all our, not in all, but most of all our contracts, when we do a contract with somebody and it's an outside person, an entity, whether it's a corporation, an LLC, or a person, we require insurance. I mean, if somebody's going to build a pump, doing a contract, we got minimum insurance requirements. Now, to make this work, I think we can possibly make it work, okay, is that if the rec districts would develop a form, okay, and let somebody come in and fill out the paperwork. What are you doing? How does this comport with the rec district mission and the millages? Okay? What do you plan on doing? Is it for a public purpose? Is it going to result in a public benefit? Okay? And then, do you have insurance, or what are you asking for? And then each individual criteria would have to be evaluated. And so I don't think, and Carly, with all deference to you, so when you're evaluating things, and I know you brought up about the issue, I think what you were talking about was the foreign trade exemption. But I think you gotta look at it in the big scope, is whether, it's not whether how much money somebody has, it's how much benefit that they're bringing to the table for the benefit of the public. So those companies, or they may have money, but they are bringing to the table big economic benefits to the community. So the small person can bring economic benefits to the community, but also has to meet certain requirements. So what I'm saying is that I think the first thing the rec district should do is develop a form like the parish has done. And if somebody wants to put on an event, they fill out the form. It goes before the rec district board. The rec district board at that time determines whether or not they would want to become a co-sponsor or can absorb some of that. Okay? Look, the cost of insurance for a single event, you can buy event insurance, and I can tell you, it's not that expensive for that event. So what I'm saying is that if somebody wants to put something on, let's say at one of the rec districts for the benefit of the public and the children, they may there's people that sell event insurance, and it's not that much. They may be able to raise that money some kind of way to pay that insurance in order to have that policy. Okay? Or the rec district may be able to do it. But there is some cost. So the question comes in is who is going to absorb the expense, and who's got the wherewithal to do it? And I mean, what I'm saying, if the rec districts don't have it in their budget and cannot afford to do it, it does not mean the event cannot happen. It might just happen at a rec district and afford to do it. You can have that event. I mean, I'm saying is you don't have to cut hair in just one spot. You can have that event and have it as a community event at one of the districts that can afford to absorb it. And that's just a suggestion. That's not the legal side always has to be addressed. I gave you the legal test, and it's going to boil down on every facts. But as far as the other side, the financing, you're just going to have to we're going to have to figure that out. Figure out what's the cost of what a vendor would have, and maybe some of these vendors may have insurance.
I'm sorry, your light's not on. To make it much simpler, give the possibility. That's why I'm sending it to the subcommittee, and then perhaps with all the other recreation to make it a little more simple, to allow them the opportunity as a recreation district, if they have the funds, to do so. I'm not saying not to insure anyone, but I'm saying that it's too many circumstances, or people feel as if that, you know, we making them jump too many hurdles when that recreation district may have the funds. If they have the funds, they shouldn't have to jump through so many hurdles, and then we're always going back, because I think some of my colleagues up here have asked a question to Ms. Candace, how many people that come in and ask for, you know, for the $600 and $600. So if this recreation district is willing to do that, I say it's for the people within the community. And it might be a much easier process for them doing it. I had an opportunity to go into Rec 1 and to with another event, and the lady told me, said that if I would not have advertised what I was doing, I wouldn't have to pay for the insurance. But once I advertised, I had to pay the insurance. So, you know, I did it the legal way and I paid the insurance. So I'm just putting it out there because I guess I'm being a representative of my people because they feel slighted. That's all I'm doing. And this is the best argument I have to not only just to you, Jews, and the rest of the members of this council and the people who are out there. I'm trying to represent the people and make it as simple as possible. Yeah.
Mr. Hebert.
Carly, I got that. Okay, I do. But I mean, I have to answer from a legal standpoint, and I have to, and then how does it work from a contractual standpoint, and what can happen? And what I'm saying is that Mr. Article called me today. We discussed it, and he says, "Look, this is what we got vendors coming on. We have to be careful, and we do require this insurance. So, one of the things you could consider doing is send it to the subcommittee, and y'all sending letters out to the various rec boards to say which one of y'all would be willing to consider, who has the budget and would be consider maybe to consider opening up some co-sponsorships for people that may want to use the facilities and are willing to do recreation events at no cost to y'all if y'all can assist them with some of this backside costs such as insurance." And I think that just a suggestion. I don't have all the answers. That's just a suggestion that may open up the dialogue to figure out how to get it done and who's willing to do it. Okay, and I'm obviously, if it's something good and it's legal and they want it, I all the time trying to figure out ways to make sure that we do things and do it legal and do it right. Okay, so we all here to help. Okay.
Kind of difficult. I think he would have he would have done it at the barbershop, but it's impossible to get 50 people at a small barbershop. So we need a larger venue. You know, he would have done it at the barbershop. He just needed a larger venue, and they just didn't want to create more costs when he actually would have done it free. You know what I mean?
And Carly, as you remember, you and I had that discussion, and I did make a suggestion. As you know, the athletes every year, a group of physicians and nurse practitioners now, you see them advertise, they do the physicals and they do it at the schools. Okay, so what as you know, I suggested if kids are gonna get haircuts for schools, then there should be some school or some gym that the school board, I believe the physicals are performed at Terrebonne and Bourgeois and at Ellender and at South Terrebonne. I think they go to each one of those high schools and have a set time, and the doctors and their staffs all there, and they perform the physicals. So I gave you that suggestion is that, hey, to me, you cut in half for schools, let them go to the schools and work out a deal with the school board. That would be another option, and the school board's got, obviously, the resources available to make that happen. They are doing it for athletics. So, you and I discussed that.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Trusclair.
Yes. Candace, I didn't mean to startle you. Okay. I know, a few years ago, we changed our method of co-sponsorships to totally in kind, no cash. But I know at one time we used we used to co-sponsor their insurance, event insurance. Do we still do that as a parish? Okay, now what process do we go out and buy an event policy, or do we have that coverage in our coverage already?
I believe, and Mr. Artigo can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we actually go out and buy special event insurance for them. So we have to go out and shop a policy for all of these
So we
events.
actually furnish a special event policy?
Yes, sir. It's not under
aside
our-
from our insurance?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, what we'll do is we'll schedule a meeting of the subcommittee. We'll get Ms. Daybert and someone from Mr. Artigo's office, and we'll knock it around and see if there's anything there that we can do. And then, we'll present that.
Sorry, Barry.
One additional suggestion is to find out from the rec districts, wherever they have their insurance, if, as part of their policy, if a vendor comes on and they wanted to add them to their policy to make that coverage, what would it cost? To get some prices, what it would cost. So let's say that it would say that, they say, yeah, it can be done, and just for that one day, you're gonna have to put up $275 to get that rider endorsement. That's another angle to look at. And then you're gonna know what kind of money you possibly look at. Now, it depends on the type of event. I mean, you start talking about doing fireworks, the risk goes up, so the rating's gonna change. But
Yeah.
that's another thing your committee can look at, is looking at, well, maybe to put the endorsement on and see what the cost is.
Yeah, and I think that's what the conversation's gonna do with everybody, that,
And then the district can
we'll be able to
determine,
address all those issues.
if the district wants to then co-sponsor, it can address at that time about paying, if it wants to assist in paying for that additional rider endorsement.
Mr. Pleasure.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The standard of health, comfort, happiness for an individual or group of people is considered by definition quality of life. I'm going to stand on this. Our rec districts have problems, and we just keep on. Mr. Jews, I understand there's a legal standpoint. Mr. Artigo, from a facility standpoint, us as a council, as an operating body, we're arguing about, or we're talking about, and I'm just passionate about it. Please understand that. We're going around the horn again about quality of life. That's what recreation is designed for, but we're not wanting to give the insurance. I mean, everyone's confused out there in the public, I'm sure. But we know, if we really want to be honest with each other, our rec districts just needs to be dealt with. We waste all this time on this issue, that issue, this issue with our rec districts. The bottom line is, let's address the elephant in the room for what it really is and do something about that. That's what we need to do, address the problem. As a whole, we have an advisory council, advisory board, but at the same time, we need to just address it as a whole. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure. Mr. Michel?
Okay, and we've begun to do that, okay? We've begun to do it with the recommendations from the task force, okay? They came up with great recommendations. Mr. Roddy and Ms. Mullen worked very hard with people to get a policy and procedure manual together, and not everybody's following it. And we're doing what we need to do. Now they need to do what they need to do, and then we need to make adjustments from there. But we can't say we're not doing anything if they're not following the rules. I'm very passionate about it as well. And I mean, I've just heard people say that they've thrown their policy and procedure manual in the trash. I mean, that's a problem. That's a problem. And maybe what we need to do is address who's saying these sorts of things and get them off the boards. Okay, that's what we can do to take steps toward making it better, because you're absolutely right. This is something that's got to be addressed. We've begun to address it. The effectiveness of how we have addressed it is still questionable, but it's this council's responsibility to call them to task on what we've passed as law in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Mr. Pleasure.
I just need a little bit of clarity, Mr. Michel. If we have that in place, we've sent the policy and procedure manuals to them. You know they're not doing it or they're not following it. What do we do? What do we do? So if we're making rules, sending it to them, or guidelines for them to follow, and they're not following them, it really, we're kicking a can down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure. Mr. Amity, I believe you have an answer to that.
What we're doing is we're currently working through the process. We're going to be having a meeting with legal to determine what we can do to put teeth to it. I'm not going to make my suggestions publicly, but what we'll do when we schedule the meeting to discuss this issue we're talking about tonight, we're going to bat around the issues, because the problem, Mr. Pleasure, is that we passed something and we don't have an enforcement mechanism, and I want to put that enforcement mechanism into that ordinance, so that way we can take an action and overcome their non-compliance. So we'll be taking that up real soon. You'll be seeing that come into the council, hopefully within the next month or maybe a little bit more once we work out all the legalities of it. And guys, look, we've talked about this all night. I see y'all keep putting on lights. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm. And gentlemen, I'd like to remind you, this isn't a conversation about the rec districts or about how we're going to enforce the policy and procedure manual. That's what the subcommittee is designed for, and we will have that meeting, which is open to the public. And we always bring all those recommendations back to this council. So that could definitely be a conversation that we'll have possibly at the next council meeting, depending on when we can get that meeting scheduled. Mr. Michel, do you have one more point?
Yeah, and as long as we're not.
I'm sorry, can I turn you light?
Thank you. And as long as we're not, well, I don't even know, does it matter if we exceed 4 members since it is a published meeting? It does matter. Okay. So as long as we don't exceed 4 members, we only have 3 members on that subcommittee. And I appreciate Mr. Pledger's passion, and I would love for him to attend that meeting and have his input at that point as well, as long as we don't exceed the 4.
Absolutely. And
Thank
we
you.
will definitely keep all you guys notified as to when that meeting is scheduled. Item 4, committee reports. Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Dirk Guidry. I'm so sorry, guys. I skipped public. I'm so sorry. We have people waiting. Let me get back. Public wishes to address the council. As per speaker cards, in accordance with section 2-07 of the Terrebonne Parish Home Rule Charter, the public will be held and can speak for 3 minutes on any matter related to parish government without discussion and question and answer on non-agenda items. We do have one speaker card, and I'm so sorry I overlooked this. Mr. Justin Soleil, can you please come to the mic? And please state your name and your address, Mr. Justin.
Good evening, council members. My name is Justin Soleil. My address is 120 Edwina Court, Houma, Louisiana, 70363. I'm a citizen of the United Houma Nation and an organizing fellow with Healthy Golf and a committee member of Louisiana Against False Solutions and a Gulf South advocate. I strive to protect our people and wetlands along the coast of Louisiana. As many of you already know, Lake Maurepas is ground zero for carbon capture and sequestration. The seismic testing, dredging, and destruction of wetlands by prop washing is killing the commercial fishing industry that built those lakes communities. I pray that doesn't happen to our bayou communities and our fishermen. But in late March, an article in Business Wire said a company called Milestone Carbon, a subsidiary of Milestone Environmental Services, had signed a letter of intent with Terrebonne Parish for the survey and evaluation of 46,000 acres of land here in Terrebonne Parish. We cannot allow this industry to come into Terrebonne Parish and use Class 6 wells to destroy our already sensitive wetlands. I insist Terrebonne Parish place a moratorium on CCS surveys, evaluations, seismic testings, and I hope we can go as far as placing a hold on CCS permanently. I'll be holding community meetings in the near future to educate the citizens on the dangers of CCS, and I wish you will join. Thank you.
Sir, I do have, our legal, I believe, might have a light, but I actually read that article and it was brought to my attention when it did come, and I spoke to President Dove. He was not aware of this. This company just said that they were looking into Terrebonne Parish. As far as I know, they didn't have any legal.
I don't know that we're supposed to be discussing.
Okay, all right. Mr. Abear.
Again, this is an example of not being on the agenda, sir. It's not on the agenda, so it hasn't been noticed for the public.
Yes.
So we really can't discuss it. But from a legal standpoint, I will tell you, I am not aware. And I asked our CFO, Ms. Malden, who gets a copy of all contracts, agreements. I'm not aware of any letter of intent signed with a entity with the name you said. I'm gonna stop it there because it's not, we'll have to put, if somebody wants to put it on the agenda for the next meeting for a properly noticed public discussion, we can bring it up then.
Yes, sir. And
I
call
want
me
to clear
next
it up
week and
because
we'll
we're on
get it on the
TV.
agenda.
All right, I will do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Michel, did you have something to say?
Can we direct him to somebody to talk to outside of a council meeting?
Well, I've been trying to get this information since March, and I've been turned every
Okay,
way but
well-
loose.
Well, I'm gonna recommend, I'll tell him how to handle it. Just as a point of recommendation, sir, get with Mr. Mike Toops, who will get an official response, but go through Mr. Toops. But I think he knows the answer already. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Solo. All right, now item 4, committee reports. Item A, Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Dirk Gidry.
I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on August 7th, 2023, and I have 7 public hearings. Giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare surplus 17 tax properties adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and to acquire authorization to dispose of said properties in accordance with LARS 47:2196 and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Item 2, give a notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare surplus to adjudicated property located at 111 Montague Street in which Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government has 99.45% interest and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:. It's a joke between us, guys. 2196, he called a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Item 3, given notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare a surplus 5 tax properties adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Government in which the parish has a percentage interest and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:2196 and called a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Given notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare surplus property adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in which the parish has a 3.7% interest and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:2196 and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Item 5, giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare surplus property adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Government in which the parish has 0.24% interest to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:2196 and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Item 6, giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to declare surplus 2 tax properties adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in which the parish has a percentage interest and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:2196 and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Item 7, giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the 2023 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Dedicated Event Fund, $22,473,066. Dedicated Emergency Fund, $755,000. Dedicated Emergency Fund, $12,224,387. Dedicated Emergency Fund, $5 million. City Court, $20,890. And calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Dirk Gidry and a second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item B, Public Services Committee, Mr. Carl Harding.
Thank you. I make a motion that the council ratify the minutes of the Public Service Committee held on August 7, 2023, and I have 3 public hearings. The first one will be giving notice to intent to adopt the ordinance to authorize parish president to execute on the behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government a contract of lease wherein Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government leases from the Terrebonne Parish Recreation District number 8, 5575 Bayou Black Drive, Houma, Louisiana, for placing a portable use on said property for use as classroom space by the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government's Head Start program and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. The second one, giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance authorizing the parish president to execute on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government a contract of lease wherein the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government leases from the congregations of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary Catholic Church, 121 Rosary Street, Houma, Louisiana, classroom space for use by the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government's Head Start program and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. And the last one would be giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to adopt a new FEMA flood insurance study and flood insurance rate map for the Terrebonne Parish dated October 8, 2021 and effective September 7, 2023, and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Harding and a second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item C, Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee, Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Policy and Procedures and Legal Committee held on August 7th, 2023, and I have 47 I have no public hearings.
We have a motion by Mr. Michel and a second by Mr. Daniel Babin. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas, motion passes. Item 5, streetlights. As per Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Item 6, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. The Planning and Zoning Committee, 1 vacancy due to resignation. This application has been pulled. Item 7, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. Recreation District Number 2-3 Board, 1 vacancy due to resignation. Recreation District Number 6 Board, 2 expired terms. TITA, 1 expired term on 9/9/2023, representing the Parish Council in 2 expired terms. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 3 vacancies due to resignation. Monthly engineering reports. As per by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Announcements. Parish President, Mr. Mike Toops, do we have any announcements? Parish Council, we have several announcements. Mr. Babin.
Yeah, Mr. Pledger said earlier, we the elephant in the room is the recreation. We are having problems. I want y'all to notice every week when we have meetings, we announce resignations from boards and especially from recreation boards. So we have more problems than just them not adhering to it. We have people who are getting off the board, just resigning from boards, and we're having a hard time replacing them. So we need to take a look at this very, very hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Dirk Gidry.
As per our discussion about seafood earlier, please go out down these bays and try to find somebody and buy some shrimp from these guys. They're in dire need of the citizens of Terrebonne Parish's help. So go down to buy, these shrimp boats right now, a 15, 20 count shrimp or 10, 15 count shrimp. They're getting $1.10, $1.15 a pound. A can of Vienna sausage costs $1.45. Please go down and help these guys because they're in dire need of the support of the people of Terrebonne Parish. So, and I'm asking again, and I'm gonna beg y'all, please go help these guys.
Thank you, Mr. Gidry. Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you. And speaking of dire need, if you're able, please go give blood. Thank you.
Can we get a motion to adjourn? Motion adjourned by Mr. Danny Babin and a second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Members, vote your machines. Good night, everyone.